What happened was I moved from Louisiana to Dallas and quit my role at the dealership, and knew I wanted to do something. I wasn't sure. I potentially was going to, I really wanted to leave Shreveport. I didn't leave for anything else. I loved the job, and thought maybe I'd go into apartments or potentially go into maybe even sell cars in Dallas, but I really don't want to do that because Dallas car dealerships are kind of famous for just super long hours and just kind of a grind, and even more so than where I came from. But I had a background investing in real estate. I've been investing in real estate since 2010. I owned a bunch of rental properties, so I sort of knew that business and knew that was somewhere I could go, but I never really figured out how to make that into a job or a profession. And ultimately just ran across the residential assisted living model. And then within the span of like 2 weeks, I was at a conference, and then I also heard about it somewhere else. And it was like the universe was telling me, hey, you need to go do this. Mm-hmm. And I had lost my dad had passed away on hospice about a year prior to me forming the company. And there wasn't like a linear progression, but I did sort of all these feelings and all these things that kind of came back where we weren't happy with his care and some of the stuff that happened with him. Rather than end up suing the company that provided his care, they didn't do a very good job. I kind of thought this was an opportunity to turn this negative situation for me into a positive for other families.
Oh, that's a very interesting, story. So you started investing in 2010. Was that just sort of like a hobby type thing, just gradual interest?
Yeah, we just bought a bunch of single family homes and renovated them for rent. It was in the recession, so you could buy stuff really cheap, and it was a great lesson. I learned a lot in that part of my life. I really didn't make very much money doing it, and didn't really know what we were doing. Plus, we're doing it in Shreveport, Louisiana, so it's like, how much upside could there be to a rental property in Shreveport, Louisiana? It was a great experience, and I learned a lot from that. And again, one of my partners and I was the guy that I was doing the houses with. So a lot of the stuff that I did in the early stages of my life really just did set the stage for the stuff that I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm. What kind of things did you take away from those experiences that you're still using today, or you think was really helpful?
Yeah, I think just understanding the service aspect of it, and my business does have a real estate component, right? There's repairs, there's work orders, there's maintenance things that kind of pop up. There's, turning units over to getting ready for the next client, getting a vendor that can come in and do the painting or repair the floors or do whatever's necessary. So there's a real estate component. Also, most of my projects either do involve major remodels or ground up construction. So just having that background has been helpful. And then also too, just when you're designing a space, kind of understanding what looks good, what types of color combinations or how you want to approach a space with the natural light provided. So, those are all things that have kind of come into play. But I think in general, it's just my sense of, when there's a problem, get on it, take care of it. I'm not one of those landlords that you got to pester to get something done. It's like, you call me, we'll get it done, and we'll tell you it's done and make sure it's done to your satisfaction.
Mm-hmm. So when you first were buying your properties in 2010, were you sort of like one of the hands-on landlords? Were you getting in there doing some of the remodeling yourself, the construction, or did you outsource everything?
So I was kind of on the leasing side. So I managed the clients, and my business partner, who had a audio video company, so he hung cameras and digital signage, stuff like that, low voltage work, and he was pretty handy. So he was doing a lot of the remodel management. So we really kind of had a construction management, and then we had kind of a rental. So I was more on the business side than I was on the construction side.
Okay.
If you're asking, have I ever swung a hammer? The answer is yes. And then the second time I said, nah, we'll just, There's a great joke. I have a friend that says the only tool he knows how to use is a wine opener. That's probably about right for me.
There you go. There's a place for everybody, though, and a role for everybody, right? It's knowing your roles. That's pretty important.
Absolutely.
So when you first got into residential assisted living, how did that sort of, you said a conference, right? And then you heard about it somewhere else. How did that sort of idea sort of spawn itself and then turn into a reality? I'm sure that was quite the process to get your first place and learn the ropes on that.
It really wasn't what you would think it was. I think part of the thing about me is when I put my mind to something, I'm going to figure it out. And, that's probably the number one thing I look for in entrepreneurs is, what's their grit factor? How tough are they? Because there's going to be things that happen. And I've faced a whole lot of adversity in building the company. But what happened was, I first kind of started thinking about assisted living in June of 2015. And we'd actually bought our first property in November of 2015. So it really wasn't a long process. I just spent from June to November just studying and working, and I ended up going to a training class. There was a 3-day immersive event in Phoenix back then. And, we had my goal was to have my first property under contract before the year was over. And then we acquired, so we got that in November, and it was a remodel. So it was going to take, 6 months to a year to get ready. And then we bought our second property, which is an operating assisted living facility in March of 2016. So there's only about a 5-month delay between the first deal and the second deal. Mm-hmm. And the one that was operating only had 3 residents out of 8. So it wasn't being operated very well. And we took that over and then started to work to turn around operations.
Okay, super interesting. So that first model, or that first investment, what did that sort of look like? What did that entail? What was the facility looking like? How much work was involved with getting it ready to?
Yes, the first deal was a single family home that was about 3,500 square feet. Mm-hmm. I think it was about 3,800 square feet. And we got it up to about 4,500 with enclosing the garage and kind of moving the patio out. And we made it into a 7-bedroom, 6.5 bath, licensed for 8 beds. So it was a, $300,000 remodel to get the up to speed. Really great property. Still, even today, it was the first one I designed. It's still probably the flagship premier assisted living facility in Dallas. If it's not the first, then it's probably second or third to 2 of the other properties that I've done. Mm-hmm. So all in all, that was about a $900,000 project. And that property produces cash flow around $150,000, $80,000 a year. So really great numbers on it. It's a really strong project. Does very well for us. The second house is really kind of our value proposition house. It rents for about $1,500 per bed less. Mm-hmm. And we like it because having something in the $3,800 to $4,500 range allows us to have some affordable options for some of our clients. It doesn't make a ton of money, but we do get a lot of referrals from people in that house, and it does help share it with others. So it's worth having, but it's definitely not, in and of itself, is not really a super profitable standalone facility.